You ever have one of those days where you wake up with all these big plans, totally convinced you're about to turn your life around, and then 6 hours later, you're somehow on the couch, scrolling through your phone, wondering where the day went? Yeah, me too. And if you've ever told yourself, I just need more self-discipline, but then nothing actually changes, congrats. You're human. But here's the thing, self-discipline isn't this mystical, impossible thing that only super motivated people have. It's actually ridiculously simple. You've just been going about it the wrong way. And by the end of this video, you're going to see why building self-discipline is not about being super tough on yourself, relying on motivation, or completely changing your personality overnight. It's about doing one tiny thing differently, something so easy you'll wonder why you didn't start sooner. Let's break this cycle right now. All right, let's get real. The reason self-discipline feels so hard is because we think of it as this massive thing, right? Like, I need to wake up at 5 a.m., go to the gym, eat only healthy food, work for 8 hours straight, meditate, and read a book before bed. That's exhausting just thinking about it. So what happens? We try for a few days, crash and burn, and then we're right back to square one, convincing ourselves we just don't have what it takes. But here's the truth. Self-discipline isn't about willpower. It's about momentum. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how the hardest part of anything is just starting? Like, once you actually get to the gym, it's not that bad. Once you open your laptop, you usually get into the flow. Once you start cleaning your room, you kind of want to keep going. That's because action creates momentum, and momentum makes everything easier. The mistake most people make? They try to think their way into self-discipline instead of just doing something small to create momentum. And that's the first shift we need to make. For the longest time, I thought I was just a naturally lazy person. Like, I'd get super inspired to change my life, make a whole plan, get all pumped up, and then by day 3, I'd be back in my bad habits, convincing myself I'd start next Monday. Sound familiar? It wasn't until I stopped focusing on huge changes and started focusing on ridiculously tiny ones that things started to click. And I mean tiny. Like, instead of trying to force myself to write for an hour every day, I told myself, just open the document and write one sentence. That's it. No pressure. Just one. And 90% of the time, once I started, I kept going. Because the hardest part, starting, was out of the way. This works with literally anything. Want to work out more? Instead of telling yourself you have to go to the gym for an hour, just put on your workout clothes. Just that. And if you still don't want to go, fine. But most of the time, once you're dressed, you're like, well, I might as well go. Want to wake up early? Instead of trying to change your entire sleep schedule overnight, just move your alarm 5 minutes earlier each day. Not an hour, not even 30 minutes, just 5. Barely noticeable, but after a few weeks, you're waking up an hour earlier without even trying. The secret to self-discipline isn't about making big commitments. It's about making changes so small they feel stupidly easy. Because once you start, you naturally want to keep going. And that's what builds discipline. Not some magic personality trait, but a habit of taking small actions that build momentum over time. And if you're thinking, yeah, but what if I still don't feel like it? Here's another game changer. You don't need to feel like it. We have this idea that we need to be motivated before we take action. That's completely backwards. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Think about it. Have you ever forced yourself to start something you didn't feel like doing, and then halfway through, you were into it? That's because once you're in motion, your brain switches from, ugh, I don't want to do this, to, oh, we're doing this now. So next time you don't feel like doing something, remind yourself, I don't have to want to do it. I just have to start. And when you make the starting part ridiculously easy, boom, self-discipline isn't a struggle anymore. It's just what you do. Look, I know it's easy to beat yourself up when you feel like you have no discipline, but you're not broken. You're not lazy. You've just been making self-discipline way harder than it actually is. So here's your challenge. Pick one thing, just one, and shrink it down to something so small, so easy, that it feels stupid not to do it. Open the document. Put on your running shoes. Read one page. Because once you start, you're already winning. Okay, so now that you know self-discipline isn't about willpower but about momentum, let's talk about something that really messes people up, the all-or-nothing mindset. You know what I'm talking about? That voice in your head that says, well, I already messed up today, might as well go all in and start fresh tomorrow. And then tomorrow turns into next week, next month, and suddenly you're watching a video about self-discipline wondering where the time went. I used to be the king of this. I'd set these crazy goals, like, I'm gonna eat perfectly clean for 30 days, and then I'd have one cookie and go, welp, I ruined it. Might as well eat the whole bag and start again Monday. Sound familiar? But here's what changed everything. I stopped trying to be perfect and started focusing on just being consistent. Because here's the thing, missing one workout doesn't ruin your progress. Eating one unhealthy meal doesn't erase your healthy choices. Skipping one day of work doesn't mean you're failing. But thinking you've ruined everything? That's what ruins everything. The people who are actually self-disciplined, they don't have perfect streaks. They just don't quit when they mess up. So let me hit you with something that blew my mind when I first heard it. If you're walking down a flight of stairs and you miss one step, do you throw yourself down the rest of the stairs? No, you just keep walking. That's exactly how self-discipline works. One mistake? Cool. Keep going. Because progress isn't about being flawless. It's about showing up more times than you don't. And the best part? When you stop aiming for perfection, it actually becomes easier to be disciplined because you're not constantly beating yourself up. You ever notice how when you have to do something, it suddenly becomes 10 times harder to actually do it? Like, the second you tell yourself, I have to wake up early, suddenly your bed feels extra comfortable. Or when you decide, I must go to the gym, your brain is like, actually, wouldn't it be great to take a nap instead? That's because when you frame something as an obligation, your brain resists it. It's like an automatic reaction. Nobody likes feeling forced into something, even if it's you forcing yourself. So instead of saying, I have to, flip the script and say, I get to. I know it sounds cheesy, but trust me, this tiny shift makes a massive difference. Instead of I have to work on my goals, try I get to build the life I want. Instead of I have to exercise, try I get to move my body and feel stronger. Instead of I have to wake up early, try I get to start my day on my terms. At first, your brain might roll its eyes at this, but over time, this small tweak changes the way you feel about discipline. It stops being a punishment and starts feeling like an opportunity. And look, I know self-discipline can feel lonely sometimes. Like, you're trying to change your habits, but the people around you aren't. Maybe your friends don't care about waking up early or getting healthier. Maybe your family doesn't understand why you're working on yourself. It's tough, and sometimes you start wondering, why am I even doing this? That's why it's so important to surround yourself, even if it's just online, with people who are on the same path. Seriously, the people you spend the most time with shape your habits, whether you realize it or not. If your friends constantly procrastinate, guess what? You're going to procrastinate too. But if you're around people who are focused, even just by following them on YouTube, reading their books, or joining a group of like-minded people, you naturally start picking up their mindset. I remember when I first got serious about building discipline. I didn't have friends who were into self-improvement. So you know what I did? I started listening to podcasts from people I followed creators who were working hard, learning, growing. And even though I'd never met these people, they became the voices in my head instead of the ones telling me to slack off. So if you feel like you're doing this alone, you're not. You got a whole community of people out there who get it. And if you need a place to start, drop a comment below. Let's build each other up. All right, let's bring this home. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need insane willpower. You don't need to magically wake up one day as a totally different person. You just need to take one small step. Because self-discipline isn't something you have or don't have. It's something you practice. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. So whatever it is you've been putting off, start small. Just one thing, right now. And then tomorrow, do it again, and again, and again. Before you know it, you'll look back and realize you're not working on self-discipline anymore. You were disciplined, and it was ridiculously simple all along. Now go. Start. You've got this. So here's the thing. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to wake up tomorrow as a completely different person. You just need to start, and not in some overwhelming, change your entire life way. So here's what I want you to do. Drop a comment below and tell me one tiny action you're going to take today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Because remember, it doesn't have to be big. It just has to start. And if this video helped you, Hit that like button so more people can see it. And if you want more simple, no BS self-improvement advice, make sure you subscribe. We're in this together. Now go. Take that first step. You've got this.